The cold hit me the second my mom pulled off the main road. That kind of Adirondack cold that feels older than the trees. She eased her car into an empty lot beside a row of brick buildings. Long, plain blocks sitting in the snow with no name, no sign, nothing telling you what this place even was. "Grab your things," she said. I nodded. That was it. That was our goodbye. I stepped out, boots sinking into powder that looked untouched for days. Snow drifted sideways in thin, steady sheets, pushed by a wind sharp enough to sting the inside of my nose. Typical upstate New York winter. Quiet. Too quiet. My mom didn't linger. She watched me shut the trunk, then pulled away with one quick wave, tires crunching over ice until her car disappeared behind a curtain of falling snow. And just like that, I was alone. I dragged my suitcase toward the courtyard walkway. The wheels rattled over patches of frozen slush. Above me, someone had strung Christmas lights between the buildings, small bulbs, old wiring, the kind you'd find in a basement bin. They blinked, 3 red, 1 green, 3 red, 1 green. The exact rhythm repeated again, then again. I slowed down, not because I felt scared, just puzzled, probably bad wiring. The whole place looked old enough for that to be normal. Still, the timing felt too clean, too intentional, like someone flipping a switch in the same beat. I kept walking. Along the hallway windows, a row of ornaments hung from thin strings. Basic plastic ones, reds, silvers, a few cheap gold ones. As I passed them, they trembled, lightly, almost politely. The weird part wasn't that they moved. The weird part was the wind. It blew across the courtyard, pushing hard from my left, but the ornaments shook toward the opposite direction, as if something brushed past them from inside the hallway. I stopped and looked around. No one. Just the sound of wind scraping across the glass. A long shadow stretched over the snow behind me, tall. Too tall. It glided right across the walkway like someone walked past the lights overhead. I turned fast. Nothing. No footsteps. No person. Just the same row of lights blinking their strange little pattern like they hadn't noticed anything happen at all. I tightened my grip on the suitcase handle. My fingers stung from the cold. I walked to the main entrance, pushed open the heavy door, and stepped inside. Warmth pooled around my face, fogging my breath. But before the door closed behind me, I felt it. This thin, tight pull at the back of my neck. Like something out there in the courtyard hadn't moved, like it was still watching me. A student worker met me just past the entrance and pointed down a long hallway that smelled faintly like old paint and wet coats. He didn't say much, just tapped my name on a clipboard and told me to follow the signs toward the dorms. I nodded, hugging my arms against the leftover cold in my jacket. The building's heating system worked in patches, warm near vents, freezing near every door. By the time I reached the dorm wing, my fingers felt like they were thawing in slow pulses. The door at the end of the hall had my room number taped to it in peeling blue marker. When I pushed it open, a blast of warm, almost humid air hit my face. A guy with light brown hair and a hoodie 2 sizes too big spun around from his bed. "You, Shane?" he asked. "Yeah." "Cody," he said, grinning as he stuck out a hand. "Roommates for the week." His energy felt like a space heater after the cold outside. He talked while I dropped my bags next to the spare bed. Little things about the school, how people acted, where to get food. Then he shrugged like he was giving up a secret no one cared about. "Christmas week is always strange around here," he said. "You'll see. Lights flicker a lot. Stuff like that. Oh, courtyard never closes, even at night." I didn't know what that meant, but he said it like it was normal. Just part of the place. Once I unpacked a little, Cody dragged me out for a short tour. The hallways stretched longer than they should have, thin fluorescent lights humming above, reflecting off floors that had lost most of their shine. Outside each room, paper snowflakes hung from strings. Some shapes were neat and perfect. Others looked like someone cut them with shaking hands. We passed a girl standing near a wide window overlooking the courtyard. She didn't turn when we walked by, didn't react, just stared out at the snow like she was trying to solve a problem no one else could see. "That's Mira," Cody whispered. "She's cool. Quiet, though. Really quiet." I only caught a reflection in the glass. Her eyes weren't focused on anything specific, more like she was waiting for something to move. Down another hall, we ran into a guy leaning against a door frame, arms crossed, jaw set in a way that told me he was already annoyed with life. He gave me a quick once-over, then rolled his eyes. "New kid, huh?" he muttered. "Great," Cody laughed. "Shane, that's Travis. Don't worry, he's like this with everybody." "I'm not," Travis said, dead flat. Then he pushed off the frame and walked away like we weren't worth another second. The next person we met was Hannah. Soft voice, soft smile, soft everything. She held a stack of notebooks against her chest and wished me good luck settling in, like I'd just signed up for a long trip, not a week at some cold boarding school north of Lake Placid. Something about her made the place feel less empty. Classes didn't help, though. Every room felt colder than the last, like the heat didn't reach them at all. Teachers wore sweaters over sweaters, students kept their jackets on, and still the air bit the inside of my sleeves. The cafeteria decorations looked older than half the student body. Faded garlands, crushed ribbons, Christmas lights sagging in uneven loops along the ceiling. Someone had put a plastic tree in the corner, but half the ornaments were missing, and the other half were mismatched, too big or too small or hung wrong. That's when I saw the first glitch. A wreath on a classroom door, one of those thick pine-looking ones with fake berries, spun a slow half-turn as Cody and I passed it. Not a full rotation, just enough to make the bow sway. The hallway, though, was dead still. No breeze, no open windows, no reason for anything to move at all. Cody didn't even look at it. Later in the afternoon, while students were moving between classes, the PA system crackled overhead. A line of Silent Night drifted through the speakers, but the melody bent in the middle, looping half a phrase like a scratched record. It repeated, then repeated again. The same broken line. Kids kept walking like they'd heard it before. The last glitch was the one that stuck with me. We were leaving a classroom after a short break when I saw a footprint, just one, pressed into the linoleum floor near the window. A snow footprint, actual frost clinging to the outline. But the nearest door was closed, and the windows were latched shut. The teacher frowned at it, then shrugged like she didn't know what else to do. No one else cared. Cody nudged me as we left. "Don't stress," he said. "You get used to it. This week is always weird." I didn't answer. I kept watching the lights in the hallway instead. The Christmas bulbs strung along the ceiling blinked once, then again. The pattern wasn't clear, not yet, but something in it felt too deliberate to ignore. Not enough to scare me, just enough to make me slow down, just enough to make me watch them blink one more time. Lunch the next day felt strangely quiet for a room packed with students. Cody dragged me to a long table near the windows where the snow fell in slow curtains. Everything felt routine at first. Kids talking, trays clattering, steam rising from food trays. Travis sat across from me, shoulders hunched, hoodie half-zipped like he'd already given up on the day. Hannah sat to his right, calm as always, eating in small bites. Mira was at the far end of the table, not touching her food. She kept glancing between the courtyard outside and the Christmas lights strung overhead. She didn't look anxious, more like she was waiting for a cue. I'd barely taken my first bite when Travis smirked. "Just hope the lights don't go out," he said. His voice had a sharpness to it, like he'd joked about this too many times. I looked at him. "Why? What happens?" Cody nudged my elbow. "Ignore him. He's in a mood." But Hannah didn't smile, and Mira's eyes flicked toward the bulbs overhead again. Everyone ate fast, way too fast, forks scraping plates like they were racing an invisible clock. I tried to ask why everyone was in a hurry, but all I got were half answers. "It's just how people are this week," Cody said. "Yeah," Travis muttered, "this week." He didn't elaborate. 10 minutes passed. Then the cafeteria lights shut off in one clean snap. The entire room froze, literally froze. No movement, no breath. The silence hit so hard it felt like the air thinned around us. Before my brain caught up, a warped jingle bell rang overhead. The sound wavered like it came from an old tape shoved into a broken player. Not cheerful, not sharp, wrong, like something trying to imitate a Christmas sound but missing the rhythm by half a beat. Mira didn't panic. She didn't even look surprised. She whispered one word, cold and flat: "Move." The room erupted. Chairs toppled, shoes slammed the floor. Students rushed toward the exit so quickly I barely registered Cody grabbing my sleeve to pull me along. It wasn't fear, it was reflex, muscle memory. Everyone knew exactly what to do, except me. I stumbled into the tidal wave of bodies as they poured into the courtyard. Snow blasted into my face the moment the doors swung open. The cold hit harder than before, like the temperature had dropped 20 degrees in minutes. That's when I noticed the courtyard wasn't just an open area. It was arranged. Oversized gift boxes were pushed against the walls, big enough for someone to crouch inside. 2 huge snowmen were hollow, cut open in the back like hiding huts. Bushes were trimmed into tight arches and narrow slits perfect for sheltering behind. These weren't decorations. They were hiding spots. Students sprinted to them with practiced familiarity. Travis tugged my arm sharply. "With me." We dove under a low string of Christmas lights stretched between 2 metal posts. It hung maybe a foot above our heads. Snow coated the bulbs, giving off a faint glow beneath the frosted shell. "Don't breathe too loud," Travis whispered. I didn't understand why, but the tone in his voice pinned me in place. The wind quieted. The world seemed to shrink to the space beneath that single string of lights. Then the bulbs flickered, not random, not chaotic. A pulse, 3 quick flashes, then a slow green glow. The same rhythm I'd seen on my first day. My stomach tightened. The timing was too clean, too intentional, like a signal. "What is that?" I whispered. Travis shook his head. "Later. Just stay still." The courtyard went silent except for the soft hiss of falling snow. Then, a noise. A soft, heavy step landing on packed snow. Another step, longer, slower, dragging like something tired or too tall to move naturally. Something entered the courtyard. I didn't see its body. I didn't see its face. All I saw were its legs from the knees down, and that was enough. They were long, too long. The proportions were off, stretched, as if someone had grabbed the idea of a human leg and pulled until it barely made sense. Snow dented under each step. The shadow it cast stretched across the courtyard floor like a black ribbon being dragged behind it. The lights trembled overhead. My lungs held still without me telling them to. My heart thudded so loudly I felt it in the back of my teeth. It moved slowly at first, then it paused. The kind of pause that made your bones lock, like it was listening to something you couldn't hear. A warped bell chimed again, this time closer, lower, right at ear level, like the sound crawled across the snow. Travis's whisper cut through the air. "Don't move!" I didn't even blink. The shadow shifted direction, took another step, then another. It passed behind a trimmed hedge, vanishing from our viewpoint, but the pressure in the air didn't ease. Whatever it was still out there, still listening. Students hidden across the courtyard didn't dare move. Even the snow seemed to fall slower, like the whole world was waiting for a cue. The lights blinked again, another pulse of red, then green. 5 long minutes crawled by before the PA system crackled overhead. "All clear." Just those 2 words. Students climbed out from hiding like survivors stepping out after an air raid. No cheers, no relief, just tired, practiced movements. Travis stood up, brushing snow off his sleeves. "Stupid tradition," he muttered. "Every damn year." I staggered to my feet, legs shaking. Tradition? That wasn't... What was that thing? Why did we hide? He didn't look at me. "Something out here likes messing with kids. Don't ask questions you don't want answers to." He walked away before I could reply. Cody caught my arm gently. "Seriously, man, you okay? First time always gets people." Hannah looked pale but steady, the way someone might look after remembering a nightmare too clearly. Mira was last to stand. She looked at me for a long moment, too long, like she was measuring something only she could see. Her eyes drifted up at the lights. They flickered once more in that familiar beat, and she didn't flinch. She just turned and walked inside. As we headed back across the courtyard, Travis said something under his breath, quiet enough I almost missed it. "If you ever hear the bells right next to your ear, it means it's close." That settled into my chest like a weight, because by then I wasn't confused anymore. There was a sequence to everything that had happened. Lights first, then the bells, then that shape moving through the snow. And I had the sinking feeling that the next time it happened, I wouldn't be hiding behind a string of lights. Snowfall hammered the windows the next morning. Thick, heavy flakes slapped against the glass like wet sand. The wind howled around the edges of the dorm building, rattling the vents and causing little bursts of cold to slip through the cracks. It was the kind of weather that made everything feel smaller, like the world outside was closing in. I'd barely gotten out of bed when I noticed something near the fence line. A tall shape, too tall, standing still in the middle of the whiteout. Its outline was faint, blurred by snow, but unmistakably vertical, narrow, wrong in the way it held itself, like it wasn't fighting the wind at all. I blinked. The courtyard lights flickered once, and the shape vanished. Not walked away, not blended out of sight, gone. I stepped back from the window, heart punching at my ribs. Cody was still half asleep, pulling on a hoodie, yawning like he hadn't felt anything strange at all. "You good?" he asked. "Yeah," I lied. "Just cold." He shrugged. "Welcome to Upstate." We headed to the cafeteria for breakfast. The lights there were dimmer than usual, probably because the storm outside was messing with the power. Students huddled close to their trays, eating fast again, more out of habit than hunger. Travis looked worse than yesterday, jaw clenched, tapping his foot nonstop. When Cody sat beside him, Travis leaned in. "I'm telling you," he muttered, "it's our day." Cody rolled his eyes. "You don't know that." "Yes, I do." "What, you feel it?" Cody joked, but there wasn't much humor in it. Travis didn't answer. He just ran a hand through his hair like he was trying to flatten a thought that kept crawling back up. I wanted to ask what our day meant, but before I could, the lights sputtered. Then they died, just like yesterday. The room froze for half a second, long enough for the silence to settle, before the sound came. A warped bell, dragged, stretched, bent out of rhythm. It echoed through the vents like something crawling inside the walls. Students were already on their feet. "Go!" someone shouted. Chairs toppled. Backpacks hit the floor. The crowd surged forward through the double doors of the cafeteria, spilling into the courtyard in a frantic but frighteningly coordinated rush. Travis grabbed my wrist hard enough to hurt. "This way!" The storm had gotten worse. Snow whipped sideways across the courtyard, turning everything into a blur of white and shadow. We sprinted across the open space, slipping over patches of ice as we headed toward a row of trees behind the dorm building. Branches bent under the weight of fresh snow, shaking loose clumps that slapped the ground like falling sandbags. Halfway there, my foot hit a hidden dip. I slipped. My shoulder smacked the ground first, followed by a full-body slide across the snow. I spun once, twice, until the world felt upside down. Travis's hand slipped from my wrist and he disappeared into the storm. "Travis!" I yelled, but the wind swallowed the name instantly. I scrambled toward the nearest bit of cover, a single Christmas light post standing crooked in the snow, half buried. It wasn't much, but it was something. I crawled behind it, pressing my back against the icy metal shaft, trying to steady my breathing. The storm quieted. Not fully, just enough that the sudden stillness felt unnatural. The lights above me flickered awake, not steady, not random, a tight pulse of color, quick flashes of red, then a slow green glow. Familiar rhythm, familiar dread curling in my stomach like a cold hand. Then the world shifted. A shadow fell across the snow. This time, not just legs, the whole silhouette. It stepped into view with that same dragging stride. The shape was enormous, 13, maybe 14 feet tall, wrapped in a dark red cloak that looked soaked through or impossibly heavy. Long arms hung from its sides, too long to match the proportions of its torso. The frame flickered in and out, like a video dropping frames, the edges bending as if the air didn't know what shape it was supposed to hold. Its head, if it was a head, was a deep, lightless void. Not shadow, not absence, something deeper, a darkness that felt like it had weight. I clamped a hand over my mouth. The light strung above reacted instantly. Each exhale made them blink faster. Each tiny tremor of my breath made the bulbs twitch in panic. The thing turned, slowly, deliberately. It didn't turn like a person. Its entire upper body shifted in one smooth, unnatural motion, as if someone moved a single piece of cardboard, and the rest followed. I tried to hold my breath, but my heart was pounding so hard it shook the lights anyway. The bulbs rattled against their wires. The caroler tilted slightly, like its attention settled on the disturbance. Snow trickled from the branches above me in slow motion. The ground trembled, a faint vibration running through my palms where they pressed into the snow. It stepped closer. One long stride, then another. Each step felt like the air thinned, like it was draining something from the space around us. My lungs fought to stay empty. My chest burned. A long arm extended toward me, its hand absurdly far down, reaching with a patience that felt worse than any sprint. The sleeve of the cloak dragged across the snow, leaving no marks. I tried to move. My body refused. The cold hit first. A shock, sharp, electric, freezing, shot through my shoulder the moment its fingers brushed my coat. It wasn't a grab, it wasn't a strike, it was a touch, and it felt like the cold went straight to my bones. My legs went numb. Balance vanished. The world tilted sideways. I crashed into the snow so hard it knocked the breath out of me. Vision blurred. Everything smeared into shapes and streaks of moving light. For 3 terrifying seconds, I had no idea where up was. When the world snapped back into place, someone was hauling me upright. Travis, his grip tight, his expression frantic. "Move," he barked. I stumbled after him, legs half dead, dragging like they weren't mine. Snow whipped past in a blur as we sprinted toward the dorm building. Behind us, a broken carol played through the courtyard, notes stretched wrong, voices warped into something that barely resembled singing. It followed us, not as footsteps, as sound, a scraping melody that grew louder the farther we ran. By the time we reached the back entrance of the dorm, my legs felt like bags of wet sand. Travis shoved me inside, slammed the door closed, and leaned against it, gasping. I bent forward, hands on my knees, lungs ripping in cold air. After a long, rattled breath, Travis turned toward me. "Where'd you come from?" he asked. I stared at him. "What?" "I didn't see you," he said. "Not until you were right next to me." He wasn't joking. He wasn't confused. He genuinely didn't remember pulling me off the ground. A slow chill spread through my spine, worse than the cold outside. It hadn't just touched me. It had taken something, a moment, a memory, a piece of the timeline, and Travis was already losing the thread. This wasn't just a chase, wasn't just survival. Something out there could reach into your mind and rearrange what you remembered. For the first time since arriving at this place, I realized the truth. If it touched me again, I might not even know who I was running from or why. The storm dragged into the night, pressing hard against the dorm windows until the walls seemed to hum under the weight of it. I didn't sleep. My legs still felt like they belonged to someone else, half numb, half burning, like the cold that hit me earlier had frozen deep and never fully thawed. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the world blur again, the snow, the light, the moment everything went white at the edges. It lingered in a way normal fear didn't. Cody slept through most of it, wrapped in a blanket, snoring softly. I envied him for how easy the night seemed to be for him, for how light everything still felt in his world. I wondered if he remembered anything unusual from the courtyard, or if the thing had brushed past him before, scraping off memories he didn't even know he lost. A soft knock hit the door, not loud, not urgent, just decisive. I opened it to find Mira standing there, snowflakes melting along the edges of her hair. She didn't speak until she turned and started walking down the hall. I followed without asking where we were going. The hallway felt colder than our room. The lights buzzed overhead, flickering in small stutters that cast pale shadows across the walls. She stopped near the end of the hall where no one else was around, and finally looked at me. "What did you see today?" she asked. I told her everything, not in long explanations, just the pieces I could remember clearly. The height, the dragging steps, how the lights reacted to my breathing, the freezing touch, the seconds of blindness that felt like something reached inside and unplugged me from the world. She listened without blinking. When I finished, she spoke quietly, almost gently. "Not everyone remembers," she said. "It takes your memory before it takes you." The words sank into me slowly, the way cold water seeps into cloth. She didn't try to soften it. She didn't explain more. She didn't have to. The truth was already settling into place. When we returned to the common area, Travis sat alone on one of the couches. His posture was slumped, but not in a tired way. More like he couldn't figure out how to hold himself up. His hands trembled in small, uneven shivers. Every time the Christmas lights along the wall blinked, he flinched, shoulders tightening as if expecting something to strike him. He looked at me, then away, then back again, the confusion on his face shifting too quickly. It was a hollow kind of confusion, empty around the edges, unfocused, like he was trying to hold on to a thought that kept slipping out of reach. I sat beside him slowly, watching the way his eyes darted from one thing to another. His breathing hitched when someone across the room plugged in a loose string of lights, sending a soft green glow into the corner. He whispered, "Did something happen earlier?" Just that. Soft. Uncertain. Not a question meant to be answered, more like an instinctive reach in the dark. I told him he'd help me, that he'd pulled me off the ground when I couldn't stand. But the words didn't seem to land. His gaze drifted past me, searching for context he no longer had. A moment later, he blinked and looked at me like we were meeting for the first time. I felt something in my chest fold in on itself. Later that evening, I watched him struggle to speak. Sentences came out in fragments, slipping apart halfway through. His hands shook worse than before. When someone called his name across the room, he didn't respond. Not because he ignored them, but because he didn't seem to recognize the sound. Mira stayed nearby, quiet, observing. At one point, she leaned toward me slightly. "It's accelerating," she murmured. Her voice wasn't afraid, just tired, as if she'd seen this more than once. Classes the next day were impossible to focus on. I kept watching Travis from across the room. His hand wouldn't stay steady on his desk. His pencil dropped twice. When the overhead lights flickered at random intervals, he tensed so violently that students around him gave him strange looks. But no one thought to ask if he was okay. It was like he was fading in real time, turning transparent at the edges. During a break, I approached him again. He stared at the wall, eyes distant. "You all right?" I asked quietly. He didn't answer at first. Then he turned to me with an expression that didn't hold recognition, only emptiness. "Did we talk today?" His voice shook around the edges. "Yeah," I said, "a few times." His eyes dropped to the floor. He whispered something like an apology, then lost the thread halfway through the sentence. The silence that followed was worse than anything he could have said. That was when the rules began piecing themselves together in my head. The lights, they weren't random. Their rhythm tracked something, marked something, helped the thing find people. The bells, the distance, a warped signal growing nearer or farther, a twisted echo mapping proximity. The touch, freezing, paralyzing, and worse than that, stealing. Small pieces at first, the moments closest to the encounter, then the ones around it. A slow hollowing of memory. And if it finished, if the thing took someone fully, it erased them completely. From everyone. Mira joined me later near the stairwell, her eyes following students passing by as if counting something invisible among them. "People have disappeared before," she said, "more than once. No one remembers them afterward." Her voice had no sharpness, no drama, just a steady, resigned truth. I asked her why it happened during Christmas week, but she only shook her head. "It doesn't have a story," she said. "It gathers people this week. It always has." She left after that, her footsteps disappearing down the hall. Travis barely spoke the rest of the day. Sometimes he drifted into moments of stillness so complete it was like the world moved around him while he stayed behind. Other times he stared at me like I was a stranger walking into his life for the first time. At dinner, he didn't touch his food. His hands hovered over the tray as if unsure what to do with it. When the lights above flickered, just once, faint and harmless, he recoiled like someone had fired a gun. I walked him back to the dorms, or tried to. He drifted behind me, stopping randomly, forgetting which way we were headed. At one point he asked where his room was, even though we'd passed it 10 times since arriving. By the time night settled in, the dorm felt thinner, quieter, like the building was holding its breath. I heard a door open somewhere close to ours. Footsteps. Then silence. When I checked the room, his bed was empty. The blankets were smooth, untouched. His pillow didn't hold a single crease. His boots were gone. His jacket, too. Not thrown aside or half hidden, gone as if they'd never belonged to anyone. I checked the hallway, the bathrooms, the stairwell. Nothing. No sign he'd ever been there. When morning came, the sun barely made a dent in the darkness outside. Cody stretched, scratched his head, and glanced toward the empty bed. "Who's missing?" he asked. My heart clenched. "Travis." He frowned at me, genuinely confused. "Who's Travis?" There was no recognition, no hesitation. The name meant nothing to him. That was the moment I understood the final rule. When the thing takes someone, the world lets go of them. Their absence rearranges itself into the background until even the people closest to them can't remember they ever existed. And now I was the only one left who remembered Travis at all. The only one carrying the truth the school kept losing, one student at a time. And Christmas week wasn't over. The campus felt quieter the next morning, as if the storm had scraped away something more than snow. Students walked from class to class with the same distracted energy as always, but there was an emptiness under it now, a hollow space only I seemed to feel. Maybe it had been there the whole time. Maybe I just never noticed until something or someone slipped out through it. I found Mira near the back exit of the cafeteria, standing beside a cart of half-packed decorations. Strands of lights were coiled into boxes, wreaths stripped from the walls, garlands stuffed into bags like old clothing. Christmas week was nearly over. Whatever this place became during these days was slowly fading back to normal. "I still remember him," I said. My voice felt thin, used up. Mira didn't look surprised. She only nodded once, her eyes following a janitor carrying off a bundle of paper snowflakes. The hallway looked bare without them, wrong in a different way. "If you still remember him," she said quietly, "it hasn't touched you again. Yet." The word lingered long after she walked away. It felt less like a warning and more like a countdown I didn't know how to read. Cody met me at lunch, cheerful as ever, talking about weekend plans and how fast the week had gone by. Not once did he pause. Not once did he look toward the empty seat at our table. He spoke like the space had always belonged to no one. I kept glancing at the ornament hanging above the cafeteria window, one of the few decorations still left. The metal surface caught the light in warped reflections, bending the room around it. For a moment, I saw something behind me in the curved shine. A tall outline, familiar in shape. But when I turned, the room was empty. Maybe it was just the distortion. Maybe it wasn't. I left early and walked back to the dorm through the thinning snow. The wind had died down, leaving the courtyard strangely silent. Workers were pulling down the last string of decorations, tossing them into plastic bins. Only one strand remained hanging near the fence, swaying gently even though there was no breeze. At the entrance of my dorm building, I stopped. Footprints, long ones, too long, pressed deep into the snow, angling toward my door. They ended at the threshold. No prints led away. The cold around me tightened. Inside my room, I closed the curtains carefully, as if loud movement might draw something closer. The silence settled again, heavy and familiar. Through the small gap at the edge of the curtain, I saw the remaining lights in the courtyard blink. Once, again, 3 faint red pulses, 1 green. I let out a tired breath. I think it's still looking for someone. The lights flickered once more. Then the courtyard fell dark, and everything dissolved into quiet.